Mark had never thought life would change so fast. One day, he was struggling to repair his small ship on the dusty outskirts of the human colony, worrying about debts and bills. The next day, he received a message that would turn his ordinary life upside down. The screen flickered and an unfamiliar symbol appeared. It was a transmission from Thyler, his old friend, an alien entrepreneur he had met years ago on a trading mission. Thyler had always been mysterious, powerful, and wise, and Mark had considered him more of a mentor than a friend. But now the message was final and shocking. Thyler was gone, dead, and somehow he had left everything to Mark. At first, Mark could not believe it. Wealth beyond imagination, estates across multiple planets, rare technologies humans could not even dream of, and most astonishingly, 2 alien companions, Lyra and Saphira, both loyal to Thyler and instructed to follow Mark's guidance. Mark scratched his head, trying to understand. "Why me?" he whispered. He was just a simple engineer. Nothing special by galactic standards. Thyler's trust in him seemed impossible. The first thing Mark noticed when he arrived at Thyler's main estate was the sheer scale of it. It was more like a small city than a building. Advanced architecture shimmered under artificial sunlight, blending beauty with utility. Hovering drones zipped silently through the air, scanning for any signs of danger. Doors that opened without touch welcomed him into a world that seemed like a dream. Lyra and Saphira were waiting for him in the main hall. Lyra was tall and elegant, with eyes that glowed faintly blue and a calm, observant demeanor. Saphira was smaller but no less striking, her skin shimmering with a metallic sheen and her movements precise and confident. Both studied him carefully as he entered, and Mark felt suddenly very small. He was unsure how to behave. Should he bow, shake hands, or do nothing? Thyler's instructions had been simple. Treat them with respect and they will respect you in return. Hello, Mark said awkwardly, rubbing the back of his neck. Lyra stepped forward, her voice smooth and melodic. "We are here to serve and guide as Thyler requested. We will assist you in understanding your new responsibilities." Saphira nodded, her expression unreadable. "Your world is different." "Our world is different. But Thyler believed you could manage both." Mark took a deep breath. "I appreciate it. I'll try my best." It wasn't long before Mark realized the magnitude of what he had inherited. Thyler had built a network of enterprises, starships and technologies that spanned several systems. Some of the tech was advanced beyond human understanding, capable of energy manipulation, instant communication across light years, and defensive shields that could withstand entire fleets. Lyra and Saphira patiently guided him through the systems. Mark learned quickly because he had no choice. Competitors and rivals would be testing him soon. Word traveled fast in the galaxy. An alien faction that had always opposed Thyler's influence learned about the inheritance and saw an opportunity. They sent a small team to the estate, testing the defenses and trying to intimidate the human heir. Mark's first real test came one night when the estate's sensors detected an incoming attack. He had never led a defense before, but instinct took over. Using basic human ingenuity, he set traps, used decoys, and exploited the attackers' overconfidence. The alien team was powerful and experienced, but they had underestimated a human's creativity. Mark's simple yet unpredictable strategies confused them. By the time reinforcements arrived from Thyler's loyal allies, the attackers were disorganized and retreating. Lyra and Saphira watched silently during the battle. Afterwards, Lyra smiled faintly. "You are clever, Mark. Thyler was right to trust you." Saphira added, "Your courage is unusual. Most humans would have panicked." Mark felt a strange mix of pride and disbelief. He had never thought of himself as a hero. He was just trying not to fail. But as he looked at the 2 alien women, he realized they were beginning to see him not as an ordinary human, but as someone capable, resourceful, and worthy of their respect. The following weeks were a whirlwind. Mark had to learn alien etiquette, understand interstellar trade agreements, and navigate the complex political landscape Thyler had left behind. Lyra taught him diplomacy, how to read subtle signals, how to phrase proposals, and how to avoid offending powerful figures. Saphira taught him strategy, how to plan defenses, anticipate rivals' moves, and use technology to his advantage. Despite the challenges, Mark's human traits shone through. He had empathy, imagination, and a stubborn determination that no alien protocol could teach. He treated Lyra and Saphira with kindness and respect, listening to their advice instead of ordering them around. Slowly, trust grew into genuine bonds. One evening, as they were walking through the estate's gardens, Mark looked at the stars. "It's all so much," he admitted. "I don't even know where to start." Lyra laughed softly. "Start with what matters. You have the wealth, the power, and the means. But the choices you make define who you are, not the inheritance." Saphira added, "And remember, you are not alone. We are here because Thyler believed in you, and now we believe in you too." Mark felt a warmth in his chest. The weight of responsibility was heavy, but he was not afraid. For the first time in his life, he realized that humanity, its courage, creativity, and kindness, was a real strength in this galaxy of wonders and dangers. Challenges kept coming. News of his inheritance spread across colonies. Humans and aliens alike watched him, some with curiosity, others with envy. Mark faced questions about his loyalty, tests of his intelligence, and even attempts at sabotage. But every time he relied on his human traits, ingenuity, patience, and a refusal to give up. Each success built his reputation. By the end of the first month, Mark had transformed. He was no longer a simple engineer scraping by on a small colony. He was a rising figure in the galaxy, respected by allies and feared by rivals. Lyra and Saphira had become not just companions but trusted friends and advisors. Their loyalty was no longer just to Thyler's memory. It was to Mark, the human who had earned their respect through courage, intelligence, and integrity. Yet Mark knew the journey was just beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and opportunities. His human ingenuity would be tested again and again. But for now, he allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. Against all odds, a simple human had inherited a legacy of wealth, knowledge, and loyalty beyond measure. And he was ready to prove that humans were not weak, not small, and not powerless. Mark stood at the edge of the estate balcony, looking out at the stars. He felt something he had never felt before, a sense of purpose, of destiny. "Thyler trusted me," he whispered. "Now I will honor that trust." Lyra and Saphira joined him, silent but supportive. In their eyes he saw hope, admiration, and a hint of pride. Mark smiled. This was just the beginning, but he was ready. Humanity had a place in this galaxy, and he intended to show everyone exactly what humans were capable of. The night was quiet, the stars bright, and the galaxy full of possibilities. Mark had inherited wealth, power, and companionship, but more importantly, he had inherited the chance to prove that a human could rise among aliens and triumph, not by strength alone, but by courage, creativity, and heart. And as the first part of his journey ended, Mark knew one thing for certain: the galaxy would never underestimate a human again. Mark had quickly realized that inheriting Thyler's wealth was only the beginning. The galaxy was watching, and many powerful figures were not willing to accept a human suddenly gaining so much influence. Rival factions, alien nobles, and even rogue human traders tested him relentlessly. But Mark had changed. He was no longer the unsure, simple engineer who had first stepped into Thyler's estate. He had learned quickly, not just from books or manuals, but from Lyra and Saphira, who guided him with patience, insight, and occasional gentle insistence. One morning, a warning arrived through the estate's secure channels. A coalition of alien factions, jealous and fearful of his sudden rise, had begun moving toward his territories. Their fleets were large, organized, and clearly confident that a human could not possibly defend such advanced holdings. Mark studied the maps with Lyra and Saphira, his mind working fast. Lyra pointed to a cluster of uninhabited moons near the main estate. "They will expect a direct confrontation," she said. "If we set traps there, we can control the battlefield." Saphira's expression was sharp. "And their fleet relies heavily on technology. But their tactics are predictable. Humans often think creatively, but I see you already do. Use that advantage." Mark smiled faintly. "Then let's give them something they didn't expect." Over the next few days, the estate's defenses were transformed. Mark combined human ingenuity with alien technology. Drones were reprogrammed as decoys, energy shields were arranged in deceptive patterns, and old abandoned mines were converted into trap zones. He even set up communication interference to confuse the enemy fleet. Every move was unconventional but effective. When the enemy arrived confident in their superiority, they found themselves in a web of unpredictable challenges. Ships were misdirected, ambushed by hidden defenses, and forced to retreat. Mark's strategy was not the most powerful in terms of raw technology, but it was precise, clever, and human. Each victory, small or large, strengthened his reputation and proved that humans could compete even with the most advanced alien civilizations. After the conflict, Lyra and Saphira joined him on the observation balcony. "You were brilliant," Lyra said, her glowing eyes reflecting pride. "Your tactics were unexpected but effective," Saphira nodded. "The Coalition underestimated a human. You taught them a lesson they will not forget." Mark felt a quiet satisfaction. It was more than victory, it was proof. Humanity, in its creativity, determination, and courage, could stand against any challenge, no matter how alien or advanced. But power brought new responsibilities. Mark now had estates on multiple planets, fleets of starships, and dozens of loyal allies who depended on him. He began traveling between these territories, learning more about alien cultures, politics, and technologies. Lyra and Saphira were always by his side, teaching him, advising him, and over time, trusting him with more than just leadership. They trusted him with their respect and loyalty. One day, as he walked through one of Thyler's luxurious gardens, Mark reflected on how far he had come. He remembered the first time he met Lyra and Saphira, how uncertain and awkward he had felt. Now they moved confidently alongside him, not as attendants but as partners in every sense. They debated strategies, discussed alliances, and sometimes teased him in ways that made him laugh. During a diplomatic mission to a distant system, Mark encountered an alien noble who openly mocked him for being human. "You think you can manage these holdings?" the noble sneered. "You are a simple creature, inexperienced and weak." Mark smiled, calm and composed. "Experience does not always define strength," he replied. "Sometimes creativity, loyalty, and courage make the difference. Watch closely." When negotiations turned tense, Mark used his human instincts to read the situation. He noticed subtle signs, a flicker of hesitation in the noble's eyes, a hand brushing nervously over a concealed weapon, a brief glance toward his advisors. Using this insight, he redirected the discussion, making concessions that appeared generous but actually secured his position. The noble left impressed and wary, unable to deny Mark's skill and intelligence. Lyra and Saphira exchanged satisfied glances. As months passed, Mark faced greater challenges. Pirates attempted to seize valuable resources, rival factions tried political manipulation, and even rogue humans sought to exploit his wealth. Each time, Mark relied on human ingenuity combined with guidance from his alien companions. He created defenses that were clever rather than overwhelming, negotiated treaties that secured loyalty without fear, and solved problems that seemed impossible. Through it all, his relationship with Lyra and Saphira deepened. They were more than companions. They were allies, friends, and at times family. They admired his courage, respected his intelligence, and saw in him something rare, a human who combined humility with boldness, creativity with decisiveness. One evening, Mark sat with them in the estate's observation lounge, looking out at a fleet of starships gliding silently through space. "I never imagined this," he said. "I was just trying to survive, pay my debts, and maybe fix my ship. And now, this is my life," Lyra smiled. "It is your life because you earned it, Mark. Thyler trusted you. And you proved that humans are capable of more than even some aliens believe." Saphira added, "Not just capable, but remarkable. Your decisions, your courage, and your creativity inspire loyalty and respect. You have changed the perception of humans in this galaxy." Mark felt a sense of pride he had never known, but more importantly, he felt purpose. He was not just a human with inherited wealth. He was a human who had proven that humanity could rise, succeed, and command respect even among the most advanced civilizations. As word of his successes spread, other humans and aliens began seeking his counsel. Colonies requested his guidance, fleets invited his strategic input, and even political councils wanted his perspective. Mark realized that he had become a bridge between species, a symbol of what humans could achieve when courage, intelligence, and integrity were applied. One day, while visiting a distant planet, Mark received a distress signal. A small human colony had been attacked by space raiders and they needed help immediately. Without hesitation, Mark mobilized his fleet. Lyra and Saphira joined him, coordinating strategies and ensuring the operation's success. Using a combination of human improvisation and alien technology, they saved the colony, captured the raiders, and restored peace. The humans in the colony were amazed. They had heard stories of Mark, but seeing a human lead such a complex operation, commanding respect from alien allies and protecting lives, left them in awe. They celebrated him, not for his wealth or power, but for his courage and leadership. Returning to his estate, Mark reflected on everything. The galaxy was dangerous, unpredictable, and sometimes cruel. But humans had strengths that no alien race could fully understand: ingenuity, empathy, creativity, and determination. He had seen it firsthand, and he had proven it. Lyra and Saphira stood beside him as he gazed at the stars. "Do you ever regret it?" Saphira asked softly. "Taking on all this responsibility?" Mark shook his head. "No, it's difficult, yes. Dangerous, yes. But it's also amazing. And I'm not alone. You two have helped me more than I could have imagined." Lyra's eyes glowed faintly with admiration. "And we are proud to serve, Mark, but more than that, we respect you. You earned our trust, our loyalty, and more." Saphira nodded, her voice calm but firm. "We choose to stay with you, not because of obligation, but because you are worthy of respect and loyalty. Your humanity shines, and that is rare in any species." Mark felt warmth spread through him. For the first time, he understood that inheritance was not just about wealth or power. It was about opportunity, the chance to prove oneself, to make choices that reflected courage and integrity, and to inspire loyalty through actions rather than fear. Over the next few weeks, Mark continued to consolidate his influence. He repaired damaged colonies, negotiated alliances, and ensured that Thyler's legacy was used wisely and justly. Humans in the galaxy began to see him as a symbol, a proof that humanity could stand proud, creative, and strong among the stars. By the end of this journey, Mark was no longer the engineer who had stumbled into an inheritance. He was a leader, a strategist, and a human who had proven that humanity's strengths were real and powerful. Lyra and Saphira remained by his side, loyal, respectful, and even affectionate in ways that showed deep admiration for his courage and heart. And so, in a galaxy that had once underestimated a single human, Mark stood as proof that humanity could rise, not by brute force alone, but through ingenuity, courage, and unwavering moral strength. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter that night, as if acknowledging that one human had changed the way an entire galaxy would look at humanity forever. Mark smiled at the endless sky. Humanity had a place among the stars, and he, a simple human from a small colony, had earned it. The galaxy would never underestimate a human again.